Joining us now, Executive Chairman of the online gaming company WinView and CNBC founder and contributor Tom Rogers. He's out with a new op-ed this morning for Morning Consult entitled "Our Democracy May Rest on Wisconsin." Is Wisconsin ready? Is it, Tom?
Well, it's more ready than a lot of states, but not as ready as it needs to be given how decisive it looks like Wisconsin could be in the 2020 election. The Democrats look like they have a decent chance of flipping Michigan and Pennsylvania. The poll you showed earlier looked decent for Wisconsin, but Wisconsin is always close. It wasn't a fluke that Trump won by only 23,000 votes. John Kerry only won by 11,000 votes in 2004. Al Gore only won by 6,000 votes in 2000.
Did he? Right? You know, it's so funny. I don't remember it being that tight every year. I just remember that Republicans had not won it since 1988, and they just assumed, you know what, a lot of liberals in Madison will, you know, listen to Bruce Springsteen the last week and vote for John Kerry.
Well, the Democrats pulled it out, and the theory was that it would always go Democrat, but the governor just beat Scott Walker there by about 1% of the vote, the Democratic governor who's there now. And then they had a statewide vote for Supreme Court that the Republicans just won. Johnson, the Republican, won, I think, with 50.2% of the vote. So it is a close state, and if the other two flip for the Democrats, but Trump holds Wisconsin, he wins by 1 electoral vote.
All right.
Tom, I was reading what Canada has done in terms of election security, and they're obviously far advanced than what the United States is doing or has done. In terms of election security in Wisconsin, are there paper ballot cities and towns in Wisconsin? The voter registration base, is that safe? Can it be hacked into?
Well, those are both vulnerabilities. A lot, I would say most of Wisconsin is paper ballot that's optically scanned, but they got a number of counties with these older machines that are touch screen that don't operate on a paper ballot that's first generated, subject to manipulation. They have 2,000 people that have access to their statewide voter registration base. Compare that to Minnesota, where there are only 100 people who are credentialed for access.
Why 2,000?
Well, it's got 72 counties, 1,852 municipalities. There are a lot of people who are given access. Obviously, the more people have access, the more people who can be hacked in terms of unauthorized access to the registration base. It does have some same-day voter registration, which is a help if it does get hacked. But if something happens on election day itself and creates havoc, that creates long lines, that disincents people to vote.
Whoa.
Claire McCaskill has a question. Claire.
Yeah, let's talk about Wisconsin farmers. We saw the ag indicators take a sharp dive in August. A lot of farmers out in the Midwest are very upset with this trade war, and they've got other pressures on them right now. I know that's a big deal in Wisconsin in terms of how this thing is going to swing either to the Democratic side or to the Republican side. Talk about what's it like on the ground in Wisconsin as it relates to the rural communities.
Well, I think the rural communities in Wisconsin were obviously a big source of strength for Trump. I think the issue is, one, how close it can be, 2, how decisive Wisconsin can be, but 3, the Russians know all this. The Russians know that Wisconsin could decide the whole election, that manipulating a small number of votes in one state could turn the entire thing. And if that's the case, the question is, in those rural counties where you have farmers, you got counties with 70,000 people or less, tiny IT departments, they don't have the capability to be able to protect themselves against Russian attack. You have a split government in Wisconsin where you have a Democratic governor and a Republican state legislature. The Republicans stripped out all the money for election security. You have a similar situation, obviously, with Moscow Mitch. And so how are they going to protect themselves against the potential for attack here? And the Russians obviously know it doesn't take a lot to disrupt a county with 72,000 people, a few people in an IT department, and no ability to protect yourself.
Well, we know Mr. McConnell's not listening to the warnings. I hope the governor of Wisconsin is.
Well, the governor of Wisconsin is trying, but he's got a Republican legislature. I would suggest that people who haven't decided who their candidate is to support yet on the Democratic side, the Democratic state party chairman there, a young, great guy by the name of Ben Weckler, is all over this issue, and they're obviously the only place to go to try to deal with security issues. Donations to the Wisconsin State Democratic Party is one way to secure our election system, which in the end of the day could prove decisive here.
All right, Tom Rogers, thank you so much. We'll be reading the new piece for the Morning Consult, and thanks so much for coming on. It's great to see you.
Great to see you.
Claire McCaskill, thank you as well, as always. And still ahead, tracking Hurricane Dorian. This is a live picture right now from Myrtle Beach as the Carolinas get pounded.